Perez. Wilco makes a run ahead of him. Bergkamp suddenly changed pace through the centre. It's Bergkamp! That's magnificent! The move, and then this, which left Dabby's ass totally stranded.
Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland. We are still an Arsenal podcast. With me tonight, 4 fine gooners from all around the world. You've got Melvyn, I'm guessing somewhere in London-ish.
Enfield-ish.
Enfield, the enemy of Barnet. You have got Mike in near LA, but not quite LA.
Correct. Yeah, for about 5 hours away.
5 hours? You could get from one side of the country to the other here in about 5 hours. Wow, that's a drive. And you lot only drive at 55 mile an hour, don't you?
65.
65. Lord Jesus. And then it's Nick in the centre, everyone's centre of the UK. It's sunny Norwich. Hello, Nick.
Hi, Danny. I have a question for you. How come at the start of the show it says 22, 23?
Moving on from that.
Moving on from that. Okay.
Moving on from that. Don't pick holes in my production values just because I couldn't be bothered to change it.
Am I the only one who noticed?
You know what just occurred to me too, Danny, is when you said 55, do you kilometers or miles is what you were referring to?
How dare you, sir? Brexit means Brexit. Miles an hour, boy.
Okay, miles. Okay, we got miles over here. We don't do kilometers.
Yes, I take no when I used to drive, absolutely no notice of the speed limit. All I'm going to say is the number 1, the number 5, and the number 2. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying anything else. Let's get on with the show before I get arrested. Right, first of all, in the chat box is our very own Nick at 12:30 p.m. What were you doing at 12:31 p.m. Nick? Why weren't you working?
I was at work on the toilet.
Fair enough, can't argue with that. Brady's banana, early, yay. I'll probably fall asleep. Bit late to watch on, bit late, and I'll watch it on replay. Bit late, 7:30? Jesus, man. He said he might be watching the Fallout revamp either way. Pete Little is there. Hello, Pete. Tom Andrews says, oi, oi. Pete says, I have a hard, strong links to Frankie de Jong are in place. Yes, I was listening to Charles Watts today and they were talking about that. Jimmy H is there. Mike is there. Yes. Jim Eves, hello. Paul Nell, not Neil. Great panel. Lovely. So Tex Guna says 85. I don't know what you're saying, but if you could get me a house in Texas, I'll move there tomorrow.
85 miles an hour, I think he's saying.
85. There's no rules in Texas.
Exactly.
Texas
I think that's exactly the point.
That's where oil comes from. They can drive as fast as they want.
With the beer open and
that's it. With a cow on the parcel shelf or whatever you call it. I've got no idea. I want to come and move to Texas. I need warmth and I need meaty warmth. Paul says, hello, everybody. Mike says, Mike's just being courteous. Englishman in Canada says, evening all. Late to the Thomas. Not sure what that means. Boy 10, I'm immeasurably disappointed. 2 very long words there for Scrabble, if any people are playing Scrabble at the moment. By there actually being fans posting content on the YouTube that are happy we aren't winning the league. Well, we all know who that dickhead is, and we should move on from that. Carefully use words here. Horrible little scrote. There you go. Late to the Thomas party. Means you're late. Lovely. Tom Andrews says, nice panel indeed. It is. Yes, lovely. Right, we've got a few things we're going to talk about tonight, this afternoon, this morning, wherever you are on planet Earth or indeed the universe. I don't know if there's aliens listening. First of all, we'll start with Melvyn, and then I'll go to all 3 of you. For the first few topics, we'll just go 1-1-1 all the way around. And then at any point, gentlemen, talk over me. I'll shut up and you can make a good point. Melvyn, do you have any hope for Sunday?
No, because I don't want to be disappointed, to be honest with you. No, I don't think so. I mean, there is a small bit of hope, but let's put that back of our mind. We just got to concentrate on beating Everton because that isn't a formality. You know, they're a tough team. They've been playing well recently. Let's beat Everton. We know the score as it's going along in the other match. But let's not spoil our day. It's been a great season. Enjoy the day on Sunday. And if we do it, and they don't do it, so we do it, then it's a bonus. I'm not going to get my hopes up too much. There is a hope, obviously, but not a high level.
That's the man who has seen Arsenal lose about a dozen cup finals in all. Anybody? Nick, Mike, you're below Melvyn. Could you pass him up a tissue? Because I think he's about to have a moment. Mike, what's your thoughts on it? You haven't been an Arsenal fan long enough to be overly disgruntled and have the joy and the hope beaten out of you by final after final, shit in the bed at the very last opportunity. Are you going to try and cheer us all up with some cheery thoughts?
I wish I could, Danny, and I'm going to take one further for Melvyn. Actually, not only do I think City are going to win, I was of that mindset from maybe about a month ago, roughly when we dropped points versus Aston Villa, and I just thought, that's it. This is how this ends. City's going to win out. And while I understand that the sport of football is a magical, wonderful, lovely thing that we got going on in our lives, and there's always optimism and there's always hope, and I truly get that. But in this circumstance, I like to believe that my pessimism is strongly based on, I'm going to say, logic, stats, and just history. And it's what they do. They close out games. Maybe I could hold on hope if like a point would get West Ham some type of, qualification to a cup or something, but they're just completely out of it. And they have not kept a clean sheet in the last 17 games. So good luck with that. Where I said I was going to go a little bit further than Melvyn, you know what? As you know, Danny, as you presented me, I'm as bubbly could be. I'm firmly behind any process with any manager. I was behind Unai. I'm always trying to look at the bright side of things. But if I'm being completely honest with myself, when I saw City beat Spurs, it hurt me, and I'm still kind of processing the reality of, I'm happy because of the achievement. I'm happy that we're breaking records, but I'm still pissed. I'm angry. Not angry like, oh, sell half the squad. Not that type of angry. But if I'm being completely honest with you, gentlemen, I'm struggling to be happy going into the last game of the season. And I just think to myself, holy crap, Danny, for those like Liverpool fans, when they went 99 points and City did 100, my goodness, man, I have a whole different appreciation for those guys because of the pain that they've gone through. But yeah, unfortunately, Danny, the negatives are overpowering the positives. So I am slightly more bitter than I am happy. I hate to admit, but if I'm being honest, that's where I'm at, man.
How about you, Nick? You got a face like a smacked ass. Are you up for the fight, or are you just going to get in your Honda and go to McDonald's?
I don't like McDonald's. I go to Burger King possibly, but no. I'm more worried about
for a reason, Nick.
Because we keep doing this where we talk about other sides, what they're going to do. We're just taking Everton lightly. What happens if, something could happen? I doubt it, but, a dodgy red card, a late minute penalty, West Ham could do something. That's not completely impossible, but we've got to make sure we do our job first. And the fact that three of us instantly went, oh, West Ham ain't not going to do nothing. West Ham ain't going to do nothing. What happened before when we were, what was it? I think it was 2 seasons ago when we were going for top 4. Oh, well, we need this team to draw and this team to draw. We've got Southampton, they're easy. We've got West Ham, they're easy. What happened there? Do you know what I mean? We've got to stop worrying about what other teams are going to do, and we've got to concentrate on Everton, smash them 4-0 like we did in '98, and then just hope for the best at the other side, because you never know, mate. I mean, I don't think they've had a red card all season, man. I can't remember it. You never know. An early slip, last man tackle, sending off. It could happen, but just concentrate on Everton first. Don't just let the other game be.
To be fair, just I'm going to say as not so much as a rebuttal, but to add to what Nick was saying, I don't think for a second Arteta is allowing the players, nor that the players are taking Everton easy. I kind of almost think that we're trying to rationalize and as Melvyn said, almost save ourselves from a little bit of the hurt, and we're rationalizing it's going to be an easy win for us, but who fucking cares, because West Ham is going to get smashed. So I take what you're saying, Nick, but I truly believe it's more of a fan thing than the actual team.
I'm just saying, people are going to be more furious if something happens and West Ham are somehow 3-1 up with 2 red cards, 2 penalties, and we're sitting there at 0-0 and we can't score, and we're having one of those games like we did before Christmas where nothing's going in. Can you imagine if they did that and we didn't? Now that's that's bottle jobs.
I can confirm that I would die. Yes,
I try to be positive, and now I've made everyone ill, I think.
Yeah, but you've got to remember, if we beat Everton on Sunday, it's not a done deal, like I said before. But if we do, you've got to take your hats off to this team. Because if to say we haven't won the league so we can't be happy, that's stupid. Then every other team in the league every season ought to hold their head in shame. What we've done is unbelievable. We've gone toe-to-toe with this machine for the last 9 months. There's been paper between us, hardly anything between us. Now, going back 3 odd years, is it, or 4, whatever it is, they were on a different planet to us, and we've done it the right way. And we are on, and now we're not only at the same table, I think next year we're going to get even better. And I don't think they will have it all their own way like they've got this season. I'm just very happy. I'm just proud of the boys. I'm watching a team I've supported, and I'm proud of them. As I said some time ago, if we win the league this year, and I don't think that'll probably happen, if we do, in my lifetime, this would be the best league win ever. Not because it's the last one. I've seen some great ones, but this will be the biggest achievement ever for what we've had to beat. We've had to beat. So it's like beating the gods, isn't it? You're not beating. You're beating the gods. You're beating a team that you think if they drop any points, you get the champagne out. Whatever team they're playing, and they just don't do it, or very rarely do it. So just think of where we've come the last 3 years and where we might go the next 3.
Can I? Sorry, Danny, I'm really dragging this segment down, but I had a conversation with my co-host last night, and this is a genuine question for Melvyn, Nick. In a world in which City are fairly prosecuted, and if
I know you're going to ask.
So 2 things, like if they got a deduction of points right now, would you take it? Or here's where I was coming from is like next season, I almost feel like I want this more in the sense that if City starts off next season minus 20 points or demoted and we win it, like I'm going to be over the fucking moon. And I'm as positive as I'm being, I'm also being like a negative. See you next season.
You're saying that you'd rather beat them this season than beat them next season when they've had points deducted?
Yeah, because it's how we have the Invincibles. Liverpool we beat them at their peak of their alleged 115. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's the romantic in me, but like that plays a part. And again, hey, you started off, there's an age gap between Melvyn and I. So there's a lot of, hey, young man, you don't know the pain, but it's just something that crossed my mind. It's just something that crossed my mind when we were discussing City, and the 115 charges are getting brought up a lot. And I just thought, like, even in this season, I would rather roll the dice, them versus West Ham, us versus Arsenal, than before the weekend, them getting points deducted in a really ridiculously silly way.
Yeah, the chat are not very happy with when City in. Hardly any of them believe, and yeah, I've got a little poster that sums up my thoughts. I want to believe.
I love it.
Just like the X-Files, and I do believe, and it won't take much. I mean, all it takes is a single goal for West Ham, a Ward-Prowse free kick. You can't stop them, and then if they get a draw, all we need, because I think we're ahead on goal difference by about one goal now. Yeah, which isn't quite enough. But
to answer your question, Mike, I think we can. We can do it, obviously. To answer your question, I don't want to win the title with an asterisk by our name.
Yeah,
gotcha. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel.
I'm a bit opposite of that because, all the titles I've seen us win over the years, everyone always say, even if we've won it, like the Invincibles, but you didn't do it in Europe, or we went all season without losing, but you drew 12 games. They will always make up something to knock down someone's achievement in football. They've always done it, like Liverpool, the first league title in 20 years, but you've done it during COVID when there are no fans watching. Do you see what I mean? I know that's obviously no one else could do that, but there's always something the naysayers will make up or decide. Like when we were winning the double, but you haven't won back-to-back titles. If you don't win back-to-back, you're not a good side, There's always something. So, I mean, I can't see I'm not happy no matter what happens with Man City, because they've been letting them off for, 10 years? Doing what they're doing, and a lot of stuff's come out this week what they've actually done, which is worse than what I thought. I thought they were just paying off people extra under the table from different companies. I didn't realise, because I think Richard Keys did something that's been going around again, that they just flat out refused to hand in documentation.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I'm sorry, we all agreed with FFP. And the first one, which I think was 2000, I want to say 2009, one of the first ones, as soon as they say, no, we're not giving you our documentation, they should have just kicked them out of the Football League. That's what we all agreed on.
That is so clever, because they've let it build up. You're right.
There's nothing they can do. If they strip them of everything...
If it's in the rules, which it may not be, but if it's in the rules, they say, look, you've got a deadline. You've got to give us what you've got by the end of next month or whatever, or 2 months. If you don't do it, you will not be in the league next year.
It's not only that, man, but that was UEFA as well. Them as well.
Yeah, but all of a sudden, all the numbers will get added up very quickly. But they've let it drag on. And it's now, the situation is too big for the FA or league or whoever it is to handle. Yeah. It's out of their league now. They could have handled it with 1 year.
I mean, we know what was, because the people who are in charge of enforcing this over the last decade, they've all been taking bribes, haven't we? You know, a lot of these football people have been done the last 4 or 5 years. There's documentaries out there, bent people in FA, bent people in FIFA, UEFA. They've all been caught. They've all now left. And the new people have come in the last 2-3 years and gone, hang on, let's look at these books. They're bent, and they're now reinforcing that. And to be honest, I'm not saying I want them to award them to second place, because I don't want it like that. That means that doesn't really give me any joy. They've already deprived everyone, by, sports washing and fixing the whole thing. They should just kick them out of the entire Football League and tell them they've got to come back from the lowest possible thing. Because anything less than that...
Look what they did to Glasgow Rangers.
Yeah, and they only went bankrupt. They didn't mean to do that. That wasn't
exactly.
That was an accident, and we punished people for accident.
They took them down to the bottom division. That was ridiculous.
I've heard Nottingham Forest. Apparently, their books were about 200 grand. Well, that's 3 days' wages for Haaland.
Yeah, but what they did,
you know what I mean?
If you read what they did, they didn't cut the grass one day properly, so they got done for that as well.
Plus, Everton, apparently, the reason they're arguing is because they're saying the debts/mortgages they're getting for the Snooker Stadium counts as the FFP, and they were under the assumption that it wouldn't, because guess what? Spurs' big, huge £1 billion debt doesn't count for FFP, but for some reason it does with Everton, and they haven't even moved into their stadium yet. It's just completely mishandled. That's why everyone was happy when we all signed up to FFP. And they've just done it then. They've just picked on the little teams and let the big teams just spend whatever they want. It's just a mockery of people in charge.
The final thing on the City thing, if you can look up Swiss Rambo, he's a United fan on
excellent.
Twitter.
He's excellent.
He has a thread actually.
He's an Arsenal fan.
Oh, really? He tweets a lot about United.
Oh no, yeah, he's been on the pod. He's an Arsenal fan.
So my apologies. That's just as big of an insult as anything right now for a modern. He has a thread and he plays the date by date, and it's not that the league is literally pushed it back. Is that every step of the way, City's lawyers go, hey, we want your league goes, we want the papers. City lawyers, we're going to have to appeal that. Okay, the appeal gets dismissed. Okay, you have to turn it in. Well, we're going to have to appeal that because we don't know how much time we have. Okay, that gets dismissed. Okay, we're going to appeal that because we don't even know if you have the right to ask us for the document. So city lawyers has actually played a hand for this dragging out for nearly 2 years. So he just tweeted it yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. So any of you are interested in the live chat or just listening outright, just look up Swiss Ramble on the Twitters, and I'm sure it just scroll back one day and you'll find an excellent, I think, 4-tweet thread that he did.
Also, what he did as well, when we bought our stadium, years later, he did the financials of it, and I was shocked of where we were, say, 8 or 9 years down the road. We hardly paid any of the debt off, having sold the flats that we bought, the property deals we did. It's very, I mean, he did a fantastic blog on that. He's very good, excellent.
He's a great follower.
One thing, Rangers didn't get relegated. They went bankrupt, and then they were bought out. And then the Scottish Premier League said, I think it was 10-1. You can fuck off. You're not taking over the old Rangers' rights to be in this division. Then they were voted into the Football League, which is leagues 1, 2, and 3, and they voted them to start in the bottom of it because all those teams were going like Berwick Rangers and Brechin and Cowdenbeath went, we've got 4 games against Rangers next season. Money, 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 money. And so it was the club that you from 20 years ago isn't the same Glasgow Rangers that it is now. They've got a different name. It's a different thing.
So can I ask you a question then, Danny?
Yeah.
If they win, when they win the league again, does that mean they've only won it 2 or 3 times and not 30 times?
Oh, that's great. That's wow.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they did because when Wimbledon moved to Milton Keynes, they agreed not to take the FA Cup as part of MK Dons' thing. They started as a new club, but they kept their position in the league and gave up the history of the club. And then AFC Wimbledon was reformed, and then so they were a new club in the lower leagues of the Football League, but had won the FA Cup. So they kept all the history. And MK Dons didn't have any history or something like that. But I don't know. I mean, I like a bit of Scottish football, but it's a different club. But I don't know if you're going to, because they had to liquidate them. That's all I remember.
Yeah, this is massive for the FA because we've seen less crazy things in other leagues and they've punished. And the whole perception of the FA right now is they won't do anything to City because they draw too much money. But Juve is one of the biggest teams in the history of Italy, and I say, and as you know, Danny, I say that as a guy that watches and supports Milan. Juve is up there with one of the most historical teams in the world, and they relegated them all the way to 3rd division, if I'm not mistaken. And if we're being honest, no fine is going to make City give 2 shits.
Juventus were relegated to the 2nd division.
It has to be 2nd division or the stripping of titles. I deserve that, Danny. I brought that up. I deserve that for you to throw that in my face.
We've got our 2nd star in Milan.
What is it in Italy? It's every 10 titles, Danny?
Yep.
Yeah. So,
I
deserve that. Go ahead.
Talking about teams being relegated and promoted, we've got this little thing here that I've made. First of all, you've got the... is it this one where it's not been edited? Yeah, so you've gone from this one with Man City winning all those titles. So if you expunged Man City's results, much like they did in Italy that season for Calciopoli, there was no Italian champion. And the same with Marseille in the late 80s, early 90s. There was one season where they'd won the Ligue 1 4 times in a row, and then they got found out of max fixing and bribing teams to let them score against them. That season, there was no champion in France. So, Nick, looking at that and looking to this, what would you do? Would you have all these seasons where Man City have won it? Some say it only starts in 2019, but that's still going to be 4.5, 5 titles. I've put Man City winning this season. I had to put something. But then the edited version, this is the teams that would take all the titles, depending how far back you want to go, whether it's 2019 or if it's all the way back to the Taiwanese bloke, I think it was, or Malaysian, is one or the other. And so if you go back to 2011-12 with Man City's first title, then Man United get 3, Liverpool get 3, and we get 1, possibly 2 if we don't win at the weekend. So which one would you go for?
What do you mean? Which one would I go for? Exactly.
No winner or would you go for the give the title to second place?
Just have no winners.
Yeah.
I just can't. I mean, obviously Liverpool would take it and they'd whip out the bus really quickly and do like 3-4 days in a row for theirs. But I just don't want it like that. Like I said, that's an asterisk next to it, so it's going to be pointless. We can't, they've deprived us of a fair league for a decade. To just say, "Oh, you can have it now," it's kind of pointless. I wanted it then. I wanted it last year. I want, I'd like it, same as Liverpool, and all these other clubs. It's just, I don't know if they do it, but I'd be embarrassed to put that in the trophy cabinet if we actually got. Do you know what I mean? It's be like, that's a default trophy.
They have. I have heard though, if that happens and none of the teams accept it, the asterisk. I'm told Spurs want them all.
They'll definitely try it.
Yep, they will. We'll have it.
So what's your thoughts on it, Mike?
I stand with the no trophy thing. Dude, I was telling you that I feel like it would be hollow if they find them this season. So I completely understand that we earned second place, but it's like a non-celebratory type of thing. And I don't do this cut my nose to spite my face thing. I didn't look at that list and say, oh, fuck, I don't want United having that many titles. It is what it is. They already have more Premier League titles currently, Premier League, not prior. But even if you're just looking at the last 5 years, coming from a younger fan, I don't necessarily have any ill will towards Liverpool because I wasn't there for the heat of the 80s. But I even think like, you have that sense of adjustment, but it's kind of like, it is what it is. Just, it's more important to me that their name get dragged through the mud and that they don't have the titles. Let's get in that. Go for it.
What I think is better, Mike, what I think is better to happen, if they get done, is not take the titles away from them, to show what cheats they were and are, is have an asterisk by their name of every title they've won in those years. Then everyone will go, well, why is that? And they go, in case people don't know about the history in years to come, why has this club got asterisks? Oh, they cheated that year. They cheated that year. That really does dilute things, and that shows what they actually did. If you just take them out of the equation, people will probably forget going forward, if this place still exists, what it was all about.
Yeah, and as a Yank, the representing Yankee in the podcast, Astros, Houston Astros, they didn't officially give them an asterisk, Melvin, but they got caught cheating. They won the World Series, and there's not a person that watches baseball and that is not from Houston and supports Astros that won't tell you, yeah, but they fucking cheated that year. And so they didn't give them the asterisk. It would have been nice. They didn't even strip them. It was just even worse. But to your point, that kind of goes to me, to my feeling that it would rather them just be publicly dragged for what they've done.
That's what it would do. Asterisk would publicly do it.
Yeah. Also, you got to think, was even the years they didn't win it, if you're talking about the prizes, they took a space in the Champions League away from someone else also. So it's like, there's some of these clubs that, could have been everything to them getting into the top four, and they just took it from them, didn't they? That could have, it could have made some of these clubs that were pushing for top four if City weren't around.
And what about, Nick? What about the FA Cups and League Cups they've won as well?
Well, exactly. Yeah,
haven't mentioned that. And that's quite a few.
Yeah, I'm generally curious about that because I if I'm not mistaken, I think when Leicester City got deducted a bunch of points, there were rumors. I think it was Leicester City, so my apologies if it's wrong, but there was rumors that other clubs, because they had gotten demoted or something, they were kind of saying, well, we might sue them because where's our prize money? And so to your point, Melvin, all the years that somebody finished fifth and wasn't in Champions, but it was in Europe, the years that people qualified for Conference League when they could have qualified for Europe, I think it opens up a real big can of worms because there's going to be a lot of teams saying, hey, especially if you take the titles away and you're saying they were irrelevant in that football table, I think there's going to be a lot of clubs saying, well, hold on, where's my compensation? If not the title, clubs might look at it on a PR and not care much. But I think if you're 5th place Aston Villa, and I'm just using them as an example, I don't know if they finished 5th place, and you lost out on 80 million or whatever it is for Champions League, I think you're going to be knocking on somebody's door. Because for a club, slightly smaller, I don't want to offend, because I understand historically they've won a lot. But for a club that size, that's not, billionaire oligarch, if you will, I think 80 million sits pretty nice with their transfer window.
It's just annoying because we don't really need to know how many charges they've done and see it in paper. We all know they've been doing it anyway. Everyone knows that. No one on TV and the media would say it because they didn't have the balls to say it. But pretty much on all these, fan podcasts, we know that they've been plastic ever since they took over. I mean, I've gone on rants about them before and said, if they win the league, great. But it's plastic, it's fake. So basically, in my head, whoever finished second is the real champion. Like, they're basically, like, if we finish second this year and last year again, we're basically the people's champions. Because everyone knows that they've been doing it. But what can you do? I mean, if they strip them all and kick them out of the football league, it's just too late. And if they don't do nothing and fine them, then they're, weak and they've let them cheat. I don't think there's anything they can do that's going to make anyone happy. But I think they'd like to make it go away and hopefully didn't want anything to come out. But we all know that that's what they've been doing for decades. And Chelsea, to some extent before that, but then I think a lot of the rules, like, the 25-man squad rule and FFP came in because of what Chelsea did, and then Man City turned up, and I think everyone in the Premiership agreed, we're going to go with this FFP, we're going to monitor your books, and if you don't, this is what you're going to get. But for some reason, Man City got away with it for 10 years.
They can't be bothered to fight. Just wanted to show you this. This is the Ligue 1 season. As you can see, Marseille won 4 in a row from 88 to 92, 92, 93, no title. They got relegated to the second tier of French football. I think they got promoted, but were denied promotion, and then they won it again the next season because Tony Cascarino signed for Marseille, and then he scored about 30 or 40 goals in Ligue 2. And then in Italy, 2004-05, Milan won it, and then Juventus won it, had it taken off them, and next season Inter won it, but Inter were runners-up in 04-05, and they weren't given it. There is, if you pull at the thread of the financial corruption, taking trophies away, then I don't know if any of you remember the West Ham thing. West Ham bought Carlos Tevez from my Brazilian team, Corinthians, and they hadn't signed him properly. It was part
Mascherano as well.
Yeah, they bought both of them. I think they owned Mascherano, but Tevez's agent and his family and other people own. You can't have part ownership in Premier League football. You have it in Italy, you have it in Brazil, and then so he played the games, and then Sheffield United got relegated. Right. And I'd forgotten. Does anyone remember just how much West Ham paid Sheffield United? Who got
in the back of my head, I think it was 20 million. That's the back. I'm not saying I'm right. I think
18.1 million.
I've missed off the tax. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, but if you do that, then all the teams that have lost against Man City that may have got relegated, they could go for compensation. This is going back year after year after year, and plus the Champions League or UEFA wanted to take action against Man City, and Man City said, "We'll see you in court. By the way, we've hired every solicitor in the entire planet to fight you." And it was reported, whether it's true or not, that UEFA would be bankrupted by Man City if they tried to stop them playing in the Champions League for breaking the rules. And now they've got another problem because Citigroup own Girona. Girona have finished second or third in La Liga and be in the Champions League. And we all know that you can't have own two clubs in the Champions League. So what are they going to do? There's rumours that I read in an article saying they will just set up City Football Group 2, and then they will buy Girona off of City Football Group, and then they will be able to play in the Champions League. Man City are fucking everybody over, and sooner or later they've got to put a stop to it because it is an absolute joke. Like somebody said in the chat further up about the Premier League, it's the most corrupt league in the world, and they're never going to do anything about it. I can't remember who it was if I find it, but Melvyn or Mike, you were leaning forward as if you were going to say something interesting.
Someone made a very good point, and another good point was made in the chat that look what happened to Leicester City. But Man City bought all their players because they could do, and Leicester went down, not the same season, but over a period of time. I mean, what does that cost Leicester? So,
there you go. Boy 10 Dio said Leicester lost key players to City and Chelsea. Leicester have been robbed of their peak by cheats. I mean, you've got Mahrez, you've got Kante,
Harry Maguire, never mind.
Chilwell.
Cheeky, Nick. I like it.
Yeah, so there we go. As Archangel said it, the biggest scandal in football history. It should be blank like during the wars so it sticks out. Because it is, the FA have got a choice. You either do something about it or Man City will do this for the next 10, 15 years until they get bored of doing it.
Just that, everybody else is going to do it.
Well, no,
they won't be able to do it.
Everyone's owned by a country.
I know, but I'm saying that's what I'm saying. Why, do Everton and Forest get docked points instantly for one breach, and they've done 115 over 2 years?
Because it's easier. It's easier, number one, because it's only one breach, Nick, and secondly, they know that Everton and Notts Forest haven't got the money to take them on.
I know. What I'm saying is, why didn't they do Man City 10 years ago for the first breach?
That's what I said before. They should have done it after
the UEFA tried, and they got done. It's just too big. Can I just say, this isn't us being like jealous and getting aggressive, And I honestly, I feel sorry for the Man City supporters as well, all four of them, because everything they've won has got an asterisk on it, whether it's official or not, and they know it. I mean, I've got a Chelsea supporter at work. And I know a few, and they went, yeah, I know we've only won stuff because of Abramovich's money. So, but I wasn't going to see it any other way. But they know. But it's just, it's not us having a go at the fans because they haven't done anything wrong. They didn't have any say in who bought them out. The same way as, like, for some reason, the media tried to have a go at ex-Newcastle players and the Newcastle supporters for who were buying them out. It's not, you can't really have a go at the fans because they haven't done anything wrong.
And Nick, to your point, I'm on record. We were just talking about this on my podcast.
Tell people what your podcast is.
I always skirt around it, and Danny is always so grateful. Not another Arsenal podcast. Thank you, Danny. I mentioned this in my mate Kelly and I. We said him and I are like, nah, if an oligarch wants to buy us, fuck it. It's the only way we could compete. And the other two, Sebi and Chris, are like, nah, I don't want that money. But it's a difficult situation to be placed in, right? As a supporter, because Newcastle, big club, massive fan base, they're filling up the stadium probably more than Manchester City are. And they're stuck with like a lousy owner that doesn't have any real intention of winning. And here comes these mega rich, corporation, and you kind of like sympathize in a way where you're like, fuck, I mean, if you brought me Haaland this summer, I might look the other way too. I might, but I do think at the very least there's a difference, and this could be, now that there are rules in place, and I think there's a difference between we hit the lotto by a billionaire buying us that's willing to spend, and we hit the lotto by a billionaire that's breaking an absurd amount of rules to do it. And I think, look at Newcastle. They have all the money in the world, apparently more money than City, but they're respecting the rules within, so they're not skirting anything. So you're kind of like, wow, they lucked out with a really massive, like with somebody that bought them, and you could talk about who they are and everything, but at the very least, currently, they're not skirting the system. And I don't know if there's any sense of justice, or at least you're like, okay, at least you're going about it the right way within regulations. But, you look at Chelsea, and we're talking about so much of these allegations, everything that's going around. But like Chelsea, for example, the rumor is that they sold property to themselves and they might avoid any FFP. And somebody said, now, Danny, the thing that you said, I follow Jared Carver, which if you're not following Jared Carver,
he's done some decent tweets this week.
You go and follow Jared Carver right now. He's absolutely wonderful. He jokingly said, in a week it'll be announced that Girona got sold out to a different company. Let's just call it Abu Dhabi 2. And so I don't know if that's a rumor that you heard or just Jared's joke, but if Chelsea is selling property to themselves and Girona is going to be sold to come the flipping on, man. Like, don't just be like, well, in black and white, they created a new company and that's okay. No, dude, it's not okay, man. Stop having 2 roles and 99 loopholes when you write up these things. So,
but Mike, that's the problem with life, though, isn't it? You know, it's not whether you've broken a law or not, whether someone goes to sue you, whether you win or not. Sometimes it all matters who's got the most money or the better lawyer. It's not whether you're right or wrong, and that's what's wrong in life. And I'm no communist, and that's what's wrong in football. Money, power corrupts, and that is the winner. And so it's such a shame. And going back to, I don't know who said it was you, Nick, that the FA have got to do something. Well, it's blindly obvious the FA can't do anything, because if they could do something, they would have done it by now. They keep hitting a brick wall, which is getting thicker and thicker. So I don't know where this ends.
I've been starring your comments, so I'm going to read a few of these out. Jimmy H has been on fire tonight. Do you think there is a timescale on these charges by the City legal team kicking the can down the road? It will get to the point where they can't be charged over some of these charges. Is there a statute of limitations? I know that's what you called it in the US of A, but whether you have that in the UK, I don't know. If anybody knows,
we do have a statute of limitations here.
How long?
But I think, is it 7? Back of my mind says 7, but I don't know whether that's with this type of case. It might be. I think with murder or something like that, it's different. But they can do it. They could do it for another 20 years.
They could. Boy 10 says, after Chelsea tried selling their hotels to the holding company that owns Chelsea, I quite frankly am having to accept that football is going to the dogs. If you didn't hear about that, go and have a look for what's his name, Kieran Maguire on Twitter. He's a Leicester fan. No, he's a Brighton fan. And he's does a podcast, The Price of Football. Brilliant. He put a thing up that there has been official documentation saying that Chelsea have tried. Another company linked to Chelsea, owned by Chelsea, wanted to buy the training hotel or the training ground for £200 million. And then when they got found out, they went, we don't really need to do that anyway to be within the new rules. Bullshit, they did. The next one from Jimmy H. Winning the league with asterisks by your name is like saying you dated Katie Price when she was 18. Nothing to be proud of. She's not a nice woman.
She's a human being.
She's barely. She's 92%.
Yeah, barely.
She's an absolute strumpet. I think I got away with that quite nicely. Let's read one from Pete. Pete Little says, for me, the best league was 71. At the Spuds, Ray Kennedy's header probably cost more TIAs than any other event that year. Not sure what a TIA is, but it's probably obvious. Nope, nobody knows.
I don't know what a TIA is. I was there, boys. I was there behind the goal.
Great
the other goal, not the goal he scored into, but the other goal was there.
It went mental because how long had it been since the last title? Is the 1930s?
53 was the last title. Before that, I think you'll find 18 years it was.
I know my history from when I was born, but before I was born, I have to. I don't know it that well. And lots of numbers. Everton and Nottingham Forest admitted culpability. City have fought the Premier League every step of the way. Jimmy H with another one. In the 89th minute, both games are 0-0. Man City get the worst Premier League penalty call in their favour. What's the chances they paid the ref?
I've got an answer for that. Whether they get a penalty or not, they probably did pay the ref anyway. Don't have to get a penalty in the last minute.
just to be safe.
Yeah.
Mr. Waffles, ain't shit gonna happen. It will be a fine and maybe a 2-window transfer ban. Is that enough, Nick, do you think, to
Probably not, because let's say at the moment Newcastle, who have more money than Man City, are they are applying by these rules because they have to be obviously over a 3-year period what they can spend. If they look at them and think, if they get away with it, we'll do it. And everyone else can say, well, I'll tell you what, we're not putting in our paperwork because Man City got away with it. So these other clubs that are getting into the Premiership and desperately want to stay there and they're spending money that they haven't got, well, we just won't declare it. So basically I think they'll either get absolutely hammered or they'll just abolish FFP completely. Just ignore it.
Imagine that.
Well, that's the only thing they can do. Or they can come out and make an official statement. We know what they've done. This is what we wanted to do. But to be honest, they've tied us up in the court. We wanted to kick them out and strip them of titles. They won't let us do that officially. But unofficially, the fans, you can think what you want. And then basically that's even worse, isn't it?
Des says no statute of limitations.
Oh.
Syed says, but there is a statute of Wenger. Lovely.
I like that. I did Google search it and it did pop up as 6 years, but I truly don't know how much that applies for something within this case because I don't know, because I know that they have like a decade worth that they're looking at and not ignoring. They're kind of like not taking into account the recent years. But yeah, it just said deeds, contract claims, 6 years. Most of it is 6 years other than personal injuries and negligence.
I've just been looking while you boys are talking on 12 episodes of Suits, and I can't find the answer.
Love that.
Never watched it. I tried watching 12 episodes of What They Do in the Shadows. You might find the answer there. Vampires. Right, there was some more things I wanted to bring up. Archangel says, but the Premier League is more akin to a club with regulations instead of civil laws. If the other 90 members want to vote them out, surely they can. Well,
would be nice.
And lots of numbers. Richard Masters, or I take his head of the FA or something, is nothing but a government stooge. He is absolutely frightened of City breaking away and losing him money, so nothing will be done about City. Right, you've got lots of really good points, you lot. If you could be a little less interesting, that'd make my life a hell of a lot easier. Oh, Mr. Waffle says, I wouldn't be born for 2 years. Oh, we can only cross our fingers on that one. Right, let's. What else are we going to talk about? Hente, a regular in the chat here, brought this point up. Mike, start with you on this one. For the people at home and on the bars, he did a tweet. Go to Twitter at HENTE_AFSC. Fuck knows what that means. He has put the Arsenal's best ever win percentage in league history. First place, Arteta this season, 173%. Second, Bertie Mee in the double winning side of 71, 69%. So that's 4% less than Arteta this season. Third place, Arteta last season, joint with, there's 3 joint in third place. Arteta last season, the Wenger Invincible, and the Wenger 0-2 doubles, not 0-2, 0-2 double side. So, Mr. Hertz, where does that tickle you, and what does it make you want to scream?
It doesn't make me want to scream, but I want to highlight what an accomplishment it is that Arteta is in first and third. And I just want to apply historical context to the actual league in which.
We'll have no context here, boys. It's gut reactions. Be they correct? Now, go on, carry on.
Just historical context, because I'm a firm believer that nobody will go and be invincible again. And I say that because of the quality of the league. And I don't know. I saw Sid, if you pronounce it like that, it said Wenger was overrated. And I don't know if he's taking the piss or not, if he's being sarcastic. But this is what I'll say. If you go back to 2003, 2004, and choose Newcastle, Aston Villa, whatever mid-table team was up in that league, and you look at an Aston Villa squad in 2004 versus an Aston Villa squad in 2024, I'm pretty sure your current Aston Villa is going to crap on them of 20 years ago. I'm pretty sure this current Newcastle is going to crap on 20 years ago Newcastle. So what I'm saying is I do believe that the majority of the league, every team other than the 3 that get promoted, have substantially more money and better squads than they did 20 years ago. And based on that, if you're looking at how competitive that has made the league, I think, and there's a reason why, if you look at, there's Wenger and like 6th or 7th there, something like that in the early 2000s. And then there's a massive 20-year gap. I think that's a massive accomplishment for Arteta, taken into context. Again, there's that crazy word that we're lacking on the socials nowadays. The competitive nature of this league, breaking records back to back with 27, potentially 28 wins. It is just insane. Oh, so that's so Sid, and I, excuse me if I'm mispronouncing it, but he said Wenger didn't have much competition at all. Now, he was going up against United and all, but I'm just speaking overall in general, the entire league. I'm fairly sure if you date back, a lot of those teams had, what's the word that's used in England sometimes? Journeymen, if you will. I think is the term. They had industrial players.
Yeah, journeyman's the right one over
There
here.
you go. Yeah, they didn't have Douglas Luiz. You know what I mean, in the midfield. And I apologize if I'm trashing the league 20 years from now, but I do think that Arteta being 1st and 3rd in that list in modern football is a massive accomplishment.
Just one point someone just made. Someone said they see Arteta being doing an invincible season. I don't want that to happen.
Insane.
No, but I don't want that to happen on the basis that I only want one invincible ever. You can't plan for that.
Premier League invincible, you mean?
Yeah, Premier League invincible.
Because the first one was only 18 games, wasn't it?
Shit, man! Imagine just La La Land here. Imagine if both Invincibles belonged to the Arsenal. No, forget it.
I'll take another one.
Get me off of Twitter. You wouldn't shut me up, dude. Just get me off. I couldn't handle it.
Who hasn't had a bit talking about Hente's things here? Have you said anything, Melvyn, yet?
No, I mean this thing just shows you what Arteta has done. It's just, and what is quite funny is one of our, they're all great managers, all great Arsenal managers.
Yeah.
And George Graham is quite low down. That's amazing, isn't it? Because at this 1-0 to the Arsenal, obviously there were a few games that were just about we got a draw. And it wasn't 1-0. So he did very well, Graham. I mean, we won a lot of games. Some, 1-0 at the Arsenal was very fine margins, and he knew what he had to do. You'd think Graham would be up there a bit higher, but he's not. They didn't win that big percentage compared to the others. So, Arteta's got 10% on him. 73 to 63. That's amazing.
And that 1991 was still 38 games. It was only the 4 seasons after that we played 42 games. So it is the same number of games that he played. But in that 1991 season, he only lost 1 game.
Chelsea away, yeah.
Wasn't that?
I went to that. Oh, I hated it. I went to that.
Wasn't it a penalty to Chelsea? They missed it the first one, and then they told them to retake it.
I don't remember that, but we didn't have a centre half. We finished the game with no centre halves on the pitch.
Bloody hell. Nick, any thoughts on this stat? It is very impressive, isn't it? Is it misleading at all?
Sometimes, because you always have to think in what, every league is different, and you've got some teams in there that come up and I'm not going to say it's a horrible thing to say that they don't deserve it, but like the year that Derby got up, and I think they finished with like single-figured points, like 9 points, and that, when teams were getting relegated, they were getting like 15, 21 points, and then you had other seasons where I think West Ham went down with something like 44 points or something, like the magic 40, and they got more than that. And they
had a great team, funny enough. Some of those play, not a great team, they're some great players.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I just think sometimes when you take into account how the whole league, depending on how competitive it is from top to bottom, that can sometimes skew it ever so slightly. So I think that's why I personally think like that mid-2000s, I think those games were a lot more competitive back then. You had, I think, maybe to 10th or 11th, whereas I think there's only really 7 or 8 really good teams at the moment, if you take Spurs out of it, because they're not one of them.
A good point here that I've saved from Jimmy H again, and this is in fact true. I remember him saying it. Danny, back in February, I asked a question about Eddie Nketiah scoring a goal before Arsenal won the league. I believe that's 2 seasons predictions in a row. I have come true. It had come correct, with the first one being Lacazette 1 year ago, and he said the same thing. What will come first? Lacazette scoring, or I think finishing the season. I can't remember what the second one was, but it was definitely about Lacazette not scoring goals. Yeah, because they're both done. But he's gone to France and he's done pretty well. I think he's got about 17 goals in the Farmers League, which is nice. Where are we down to? Right. So we've done that one. Move that away. Start with you on this one, Nick. Some moaning on Twitter, morons, saying this season is a failure as it's second again. Do they have a point, considering we have gone 8th, 5th, 2nd, possibly second?
At least second.
At least second, yeah, that's a better way.
Failure? No, I say fuck them. But I mean, I've been watching this since you've started it, Danny, and probably the one before that. What was it called again? The one we did with the other 2 lads, the Steve Bald Collective as well.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was watching that, and then it went to Bergkamp a few years later. So, and pretty much ever since I've been on here, all I've ever said I want my club to do, and I think that's why we were so annoyed and frustrated, and the whole AFTV thing happened, and just we became a bit of a joke club, is we weren't even trying. And all I've said, I want my club to be competitive and do everything in their power to try and be competitive. And the last, 4 or 5 years, we have done. We've done everything in our power. We've spent all the money, not the Cronky's money, but the money that we've had. It's not just sitting in a bank account, keeping our powder dry, not, being the only club in Europe to not, buy an outfield player. Every year we in with a chance to win the league around January, and we say, we need to buy a striker or we need to buy a defender. We buy no one in January, and then we fall off because we haven't shown any ambition. And we have shown ambition in the last few years. I mean, we broke our transfer record, several times over in the last 3 or 4 years. We've gone out and bought... Is Declan Rice the most expensive English player ever?
No, well, it depends what we
Is it
paid.
105?
100. If it's 105,
I think Grealish was 100, wasn't he? And
exactly.
Isn't it, mate?
Yeah.
Isn't it Fernandes at Chelsea at 120? Endo.
I said English.
English player.
Yeah.
I've only got one here, buddy.
Right. So I guess it depends whether the bonuses get paid out for Declan Rice, which they
well,
will
sure
for winning the league.
Can I ask a question? We paid 105, right? When do we pay the second instalment?
Yeah, sooner the better from them, because they've been mugged off.
I think Boy 10 Dio said behave and Nketiah has 7, and I'm not kidding. Because I remember Google searching it for S&Gs, and in the league, I'm not even kidding, just league goals, he's number 7 as far as goals. Has scored 5 for us, but we don't have a crap load of goal scorers. So we got Saka 16, Kai 12, Trossard 12, Odegaard 8, Rice 7, Martinelli 6, Eddie Nketiah number 7 on that list, 5 goals. Ben White, Gabriel, and Gabriel finish off the nine bracket with 4 goals each. So it's just I'm not defending Eddie. I just thought it was a funny stat that he's barely played, but he has scored 5 goals this season. So I think that's not only that he scored 5 goals, but that he's top 10 within our club in the league. Because if you start factoring in Champions League, he falls out of the top 10. But I just thought it was
4 goals in one game though.
Excuse me?
4 of Eddie's goals were in one game.
I think so, yeah. Where he had a worldie, really scored.
So he scored in 2 games this year. Great.
Yeah. It's just a funny.
Sheffield
See
United
how stats can be misleading.
And this is exactly why when I read stats, I'm like, nah, because you could.
But what is surprising, Mike, is you've got Jesus and Martinelli. They've scored 10 goals between them. Who would have thought that in the league? One's got
Yeah.
60,
Oh, the Martinelli and Avon brought it up really earlier in the live chat. Danny, I don't think you'll be able to find it because it was so far up. But Avon did mention, like, can we stop pretending that the criticism of Martinelli is like, like, how dare you? Like, it's blasphemy. I'm like, it's, especially if you're comparing him to last season. I don't think saying he was below par, you could say it's a confidence, you could say whatever you want, but I think it's a fair criticism. And, I told him, hey, I think it's fair. No, two things. No player should be above criticism. If he had a bad game, especially by his own standards, go for it. And the only thing is, I say, like, I think there's a fine line between his head is down, he's underperforming, he could have done better, and he's shit. I think there's a distinction between criticism and insulting. And, not that Avon was insulting him. Him and I agreed on that. But, yeah, I do think we fall into, and everybody has their own personal bias, as I like to say. You fall in love and you start liking players more over other players just for whatever reason. And, it's kind of like, so anybody that wants to be like, how dare you? He's this dude, but feel free to rate a player as high as you want. But I think we all fall victims of potentially overrating players that we tend to really. I know that I would get defensive with Odegaard, right? I get defensive with Gabriel, Big Gabby, not Gabriel Jesus. And I'm actually fairly hard on Gabriel Jesus. Like, when he misses a goal, I'm like, fuck's sake, you're the striker. What the hell? But it's just, I think it's normal human being bias when it comes to that. But yeah, you mentioned Martinelli. I just thought it was funny. Avon mentioned that people get very, very defensive, especially with their favorite players. And, it's kind of funny, just drifting slightly. I was listening to Arsblog, a little podcast. There's a plug for them. Live chat might know them. They mentioned that Ramsdale was the first major call that Arteta took one of our beloved players out back, right, and put him down. And this summer, like, I love Smith Rowe, but if he left, I could picture a lot of people being very upset.
But he will go.
But
he's ruthless. That manager is ruthless, Mike. You got to know that.
But that said, Melvin, if the level is up in which we're going and we need to be more ruthless and break more records next season, well, dude, the starting lineup tells you all Arteta needs to tell you. He could say how much he loves a player, but Danny, I said this in the last podcast when I was on with you. Partey has been fit for 2 months. He's been starting for 2 months. Smith Rowe has been fit for 6 months, and we've seen him one game versus an incredibly depleted Luton. That is all Arteta needs to show me to know that Smith Rowe is not in his plans. Maybe I'm missing some grand scheme of a plan.
I don't think so.
I said, as soon as Partey was available, he's played the last 6-7 games in the league. And Smith Rowe literally played and started a game in which we went up not only on a bad form Luton, but a Luton that had 18 injuries themselves. And if that's the only way you're getting into this squad, I don't see you sticking around. Yeah. And Smith Rowe is one of the very few players I have on the back of a kit. Very few players.
When I see him playing, I look forward to watching Smith Rowe play. I've done that for a few seasons now. When he gets the ball, I'm like halfway out of my seat, expecting him to do something. But what about the similar thing, Mike? I'm not saying he deserves to get in. I don't think he will make it in our league, but he's potentially a very good footballer. Vieira, he's got no time. There could be an argument for us to sell him. I don't think Arteta will, because Arteta bought him. I think that might be at the back of his mind. So we'll see what happens there. I'd rather keep Smith Rowe. If it's one or the other. Sorry.
Arteta bought Ramsdale as well. He doesn't care about bombing him out, though.
He's ruthless, yeah, but he wanted that guy, the otother goalie, more. That's the difference.
Yeah. And I think the Raya links were there before the Ramsdale links, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. Thanks, Annie. Yeah. We were already trying for Raya, so Ramsdale, and hey, listen, we made a living off of quote unquote second choices, because look at Trossard coming in after a failed bid for Mudryk. But at least with the Raya thing, there is that thing where we know he wanted Raya 3 seasons ago prior to Ramsdale. Now the Vieira thing came out of the blue, no ITK, nobody brought it up, and he brought it. So it'd be really interesting. But Melvin, if you told me Smith Rowe and Vieira were both up for sale in the summer, I would not be surprised one bit, to be honest with you.
He was interested in Raya in 2021 when Brentford won the playoffs. I remember all the furore at the time going, we can't have a player from the Championship.
Sounds about right, yeah.
Our very own James made a point and said Rice is the most expensive English player on paper, but Jude Bellingham's really, with all the clauses that add on, the deal for Bellingham was €134, which is £115 million.
Also cheap.
Yeah, he spent the season at Birmingham. I mean, you'll never wash the stink out of him, but it is it's amazing to think that he is that he spent some time there. Poor lad, poor lad. One quick one, starting with you, Melvyn. What do we need to do to improve on where we finished the last 2 seasons in a row? Be it players or tactics or good luck or whatever it is. What would you say it is?
Players, first of all. I think we need to improve. We need to get a replacement for Partey, someone who can play 38, 36 league games for us at a top level. And I think we need another wide, fast player. Whether it means selling other players, I don't know. But I mean, for example, I don't like putting players in, but the Palace geezer, Alese, what's his name? Was it? Elisa, he's mustard.
Yeah. He was at Arsenal as a kid.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. He looks mustard. He's fast. He's direct. We're all talking about buying the Wolves guy that keeps getting injured, the winger there. But for me, this guy's got it all. No, was it the Wolves?
Nunez?
Number 7, I think he is. We were looking at him. But I would have the Palace guy. I'd definitely have the Palace guy.
The Wolves guy really scares me in the sense that, like, I don't necessarily think one injury means 100% you're going to be injured when you're at our club, but Pedro Neto, thank you,
that's
James,
it.
or not only James but Sid as well.
Yeah.
But his injury, I'm like, my God, dude, it's like the entire season. So it makes you a little bit more hesitant, I would say.
Over there, Alesse's had injuries as well. This Avon says. I didn't know that. But he looks good. He looks top dollar.
Anyone
That's why I
else
would
got a point
those
on that?
positions.
Nick, did you? As soon as I say that, Mike unmutes himself. Nick, what would you put it down to if we're going to finish first next season, or can't we?
I was thinking, irrelevant of position. What have we got? What have we not got? Which other teams that have won it have? And I think probably a striker or a winger, like someone like Alexis Sanchez or Van Persie, that level of player, but basically someone who can win a game on his own. Because that seems that when Arsenal play well, we play really well. And when we had that horrible spell before Christmas, no one could score. Do you know what I mean? That's like, it seemed like everyone plays well or everyone plays badly. I want someone like that who, even if we play crap, he could just go around 3 players and put it in the top corner. And we think, we had a stinker today. Good job he got us out of jail. We just don't seem to have that. And I think Man City have got that with Haaland. They're a really good team, side. And if he doesn't play, they can still win. But if they don't click, he can still score, and people like De Bruyne. We just need someone. I know it's easier said than done. I just want a match winning, someone who could score goals out of nothing. I don't know who it is. They keep coming up with these players abroad and things like that. And I would, if we can get rid of Jesus and upgrade him, and then upgrade Eddie as well. But between that's what I want, a match winner.
Mike?
I'm more focused on the midfield myself personally. So I would really love if we only could sign 3 players. I would say two midfielders and a right winger, like a natural right winger. I know Martinelli's played there slightly, and it's not. I don't know if you could call it competition, and I guess Trossard has proven that if you're good enough, you take places. Because Martinelli, who would have thought at the beginning, and based on last season, he was going to lose out on that starting spot, but Trossard managed to do it just based on form. But yeah, I think Saka, it would be ideal, especially with the amount of football, and there's only going to be more football in the next calendar. So a right winger, Elise could play there. He has played there in Palace. Neto also could play there. But I'm more focused in the midfield. Like I love the links of Guimaraes, and I know that we have so much bad history, and he has his reputation, but he is an excellent progressor of the ball. He's very similar to Partey, as you mentioned, Melvyn, and I do think there is a lot to speak about Partey availability as well. Like I've always been, it's kind of like when I used to criticize Ozil and say, thanks for the 3 10 out of 10 performances that you've given us this season, but what about the other 35 games in which you've given us like a 4 out of 10 or not available at all? Versus like Odegaard, you can make a statement that he did like whatever 38 out of 10s, and I'll take that all day long. So my major focus is the midfield, and I do think I think Partey, and then he's leaving. Obviously, I wouldn't be surprised if there's 2 midfielders coming in, but just based on bodies alone, Partey will most likely leave. Just speculation. El Nenny's at a contract. Smith or Vieira, I think they're on the line. And Wineri, you highlighted the comment, Danny, that he's now being mentored by Odegaard through Arteta's, plan. I think he's probably going to stick around. I was told no Ozil talk in the chat. Sorry, we got a different German now. So yeah, Gunnar, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm just concerned that if we do buy a striker, that we've seen the Havertz is brilliant when he plays in that kind of false 9-10-8 role. But if we buy someone who's going to play up front, then that limits his what he can do. And I think that we might not see the same player from someone we spent a fortune on that has turned out to be one of the surprises of the season. But I think we definitely need a striker and someone to push Saka, because we've seen since Christmas, Saka really hasn't been Saka, has he? Well, he's getting kicked every game. He's battered and bruised. He's got a busy summer coming up, and he's going to get no rest again. But, you rest when you die. And so he's 22, 23, whatever he is now. You can rest later. Just keep running. But he's not been the same player. Still been brilliant, but he hasn't been magical, match-winning, unstoppable performances, which is what we have seen and got used to getting from him. Right, so let's.
Sorry, I was just going to say on the striker thing, I do think that there's some. It makes sense in which, how Declan Rice was a sure thing, right? Like not a lot of people. Everybody assumed he was going to be 90 plus, right, for the most part, because of the quality that he showed in West Ham, and everybody was like, "Yeah, sure, 100, get the deal done." I can't think of a striker that I could be like, oh yeah, no, this guy's 100% worth 100 mil. And I think, so I kind of think that's why we're kind of linked to, I'm going to say, of the worlds, like Mike Fengberg hates, the Cescos of the world, which is an incredibly still raw, high profile player that could hit a new level. I don't anticipate the club going for an already proven article, in the sense that if you look around, what already proven 100 mil pound player can you think of? Mbappe's on to Madrid, right? Haaland is already at City. I don't look at any striker and say, oh my God, that guy's a world beater. And I think that explains the links to Zerski of Bologna and Sesko. I think potentially Kai Havertz form might have changed the plans, and the fact that there's no, as I like to say, blood bank guarantee striker out there that's going to come and say, he's a Van Persie. He's going to score 30 goals. I don't think that's out there currently. So I think the striker thing. I again, just going back to the midfield. If you told me we're going to spend more money on one midfielder versus one striker, I think I would go there. Yeah, no, Russ. That's what I used. I used the comment as elite, but I meant like below. He's not a proven article yet. I think he has room to grow, and I think that's the market we're at. We're not going to go for a world-class elite striker. I think we're going to do one slightly below.
Fair enough. Jimmy asked about any chance of talking about VAR fucking off. Melvyn, any thoughts on, would you get rid of it, or would you just make the people who use it properly?
I would. We can't do that. Too much money involved. What I would do, I would definitely get rid of VAR if it had a bit of string on it, and at the end of the string, all our refs go with it as well.
Oh, lovely. Add a giant helium balloon and off they go into the
And get refs from another country, another European country. I'll settle for that.
Yeah. Mike, what do you reckon?
I think England is one of the only countries in the world in which they're blaming VAR and not the refs. It's just insane that they've been able to keep a close little group of Manchester-based, refs, and nobody thought, maybe it's the fuckos that are using it. Because how do you get instant replay and fuck things up?
Especially when the commentators don't have the facilities that you do, and they get it right every time, instantly.
Yeah, and they put out some stat, and like Wolves, who are the ones leading the push to eliminate VAR, they're like minus 17 on points because of VAR errors. I don't know how no other country in the world is struggling with VAR the way England is doing it. And like, look, even if you don't want to get rid of the refs, which I do think you should be able to hire refs from other leagues, being that you're the richest league in the world, just an independent panel that aren't childhood friends with the current group of PGMOL looking at a monitor, for me, would be a massive step forward. But when you have X ref saying he already had a really rough game, I didn't want to send my mate to the screen, that is fun. That showed
it all up for me.
That is damning, dude. I don't know how you maintain the integrity of the league with somebody making a public statement like that. So at the very least, an independent panel, there is zero way that you could look at me and tell me that you can't hire a Norwegian, a Brazilian, and a Portuguese to look at VAR simultaneously for like there's no way I'll buy into the idea that it's just not in the budget. So I would start off with an independent panel. I would keep VAR personally.
Boy 10 sums mine up before I come to Nick. VAR is a sophisticated way to rig games for sports betting on English games. If anybody thinks that football in the Premier League isn't rigged one way or another to get massive payouts, then you're off your trolley. We've seen already this season Liverpool's goal against Spurs when they were down to 9 men disallowed. Our one against Newcastle might have cost us the title. Endless amounts of ones. It's corrupt. There is no way. It is corrupt. For all sports are corrupt. Southeast Asian betting syndicates, they corrupt everything, and they're just scumbags. But if they want to sponsor the pod, let me know.
The things that's always driven me absolutely mad, Danny, is when, and I have suggested corruption a lot. I'm guilty on that though. The thing that drives me nuts is the people that go to bat and say, "You're out of your mind. That's impossible." And I ask myself, how can you live in this world and think money can't sway a human being? And if you wanted to, let's just put politics aside, because I'm not trying to ruffle up anybody's feathers, but even within the sport, you just said Marseille got, we're bribing people for the refs, right? Juve got demoted because they were bribing. I find it like mind-boggling that there's people out there that are like tinfoil hat. why would you not think money could influence somebody? Like, that is
Does
so
every
insane.
other aspect of life.
Exactly. Like I said, money corrupts, power corrupts.
Yeah.
End of.
Nick, have you got a few quid you can put on the Arsenal to make sure we win a few games next season?
No, I spent it all on the Honda. You know this.
You tit.
Yeah, I mean, just a bit of
Buy that off of
context.
Fergus.
Yeah, just a bit of context so everybody knows why. Basically, Wolves officially put in a complaint at the start of the week that wants VAR scrapped. And a few hours ago, apparently the counts come in, it's 19-1, saying, no, we want it. So it's not going anywhere.
Fuck's sake. 19-1.
Yeah.
It's like chickens voting for Christmas.
Yeah, but
They
we all
don't
know there's nothing wrong with VAR. We've been saying for 50 years, it's a shame the ref got that wrong, but he only gets one look at it. He doesn't get the video replays like we do. We've finally got the video replays, and they're getting more wrong than what they did before. And some of them are hilariously wrong. And like Danny said, they're borderline. You think someone's put money on this. And I think there was a couple. What did we play Leeds last year? That referee got stripped and demoted because apparently there was a dodgy someone's second brother-in-law put 20 grand bet on one of the Arsenal players to get booked at a certain minute.
Xhaka.
Yeah, it was Saka. He got, but apparently someone put to be honest, if you're going to put 20 grand on an Arsenal player to get booked, you would have put it on Saka, but you wouldn't put it in the 19th minute of the exact of the minute, would you? So they were like, this doesn't compute. But and again, another thing that Man City haven't been done, they are paying referees to go referee their parent clubs in Dubai for 1 week and one match more than they get the entire year refereeing in the Premier League. So how is that not influencing the referees' decisions? That's like what you said, Mike. There's no other company I know. My company gets it. Every company I know gets it. They get third-party adjudication. And you pay them to make sure you're doing what you do, and so you can't get in trouble. So you prove that you are doing it right. And I'm pretty sure all the other referee companies like Spain, they've got this. They've got third-party adjudication. And if these refs are not up to standard, they do stuff wrong, these third parties look at them and say, your numbers are down, you're getting everything wrong, you're gone. You're not demoted to the championship for a week or give you a week off so you can go on holiday for a fortnight and then you come back because people have forgotten. They're saying, if you are doing a bad job, you lose your job. And it's not nice. I don't want anyone to lose their job. But if they're bad at it, I do.
Don't you think, though, Nick, the pool of referees is not big enough? So they can't afford...
mate. There's loads in the championship. There's loads.
No, but I'm talking about the Premiership refs I'm talking about.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. The head boys at the table that were all pals with Riley and Howard Webb, like this circle of bald, shaved head twat. Sorry, Danny, but that's all the same people, and they're all too old. I mean, I don't know if they changed it, but I think you can go up to 48 in this country, and in other countries it's 42 and stuff like that. They can't keep up with play, and this has been going on for years. They're not fit, and they're still getting it, and it's the same referees in the same matches getting the same stuff wrong. And I mean, we saw it. What was it Nottingham Forest was spot on what they said, and you're listening to the replay, and they keep saying this. Oh, we can only interfere if it's a clear and obvious error, and they're playing the video with Howard Webb and Michael Owen. They're laughing at the fans because he's saying he got the ball, he played the ball. He didn't play the ball. It's Ashley Young. He didn't play the ball. He missed the ball. How is that not a clear and obvious error? He kicked the ball or he didn't. And for some reason, they ignored it. And it's just happening again and again. And rather than the clubs somehow banding together to get this third-party adjudication, the referees are going after the managers and people in the media and having a go at them if they say anything negative about them. And they're trying to tell us that, they're we've got people looking at it. We know that's a penalty, or we know that's not a penalty. They're saying the exact opposite and criticising people who do. And I'm like, it's just bizarre how this is getting to how it's getting, and how easily that could be fixed in a week if they wanted to.
But it is bent when you think about when they use the excuse clear and obvious error. Clear and obvious error. In my opinion, a decision is either an error or it's correct. All this about clear and obvious, it clouds over the decision.
Yeah, but I don't want
push it where you want. No, it shouldn't. That clear or obvious should be taken out of the equation. It's either right or wrong.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But the stuff that's down to opinion, which shouldn't be a lot, I understand them getting some of that wrong, but they're getting black and white decisions wrong. They're getting offsides wrong. I mean, we talked about this offside thing, which they've had for 2 years, and there's a few videos on YouTube that shows you how it worked. And they had it at the World Cup. They can do any offside decision in less than 5 seconds. 5 seconds is the maximum. I reckon that's averaging about 2 seconds, where you put in there, this is this team, this is this team's colours. That automatically goes back and forth, and it draws the lines in real time, and it will tell you, and they could put a little vibrating watch on the linesman to say, that's offside. But they all agreed, and I think a lot of clubs are using it next year, and we're still saying, England is still saying we're not going to use it, and because it is part of Wenger and the FA, and they're saying they're all agreed on, I don't know if it's 30 centimetres or 30 inches, whatever it is, they've all agreed this should be the standard of what is acceptably offside, because we've seen, like say, toes offside. I mean, it was funny, when we beat Spurs 3-2, they had a goal disallowed because his arse was fatter than Gabriel's. They gave his arse offside, and he's got his back to goal. That's not in the spirit of offside, so they won't even allow that. It's simple, offside, vibrates in it. Oh, it's offside, done. But they don't even want it. They refuse and help. They're arrogant people hanging on to whatever power they think they've got, and eventually it's just we've got people who've written books trying to call them out on all their bloody what they've done over the years, and I think they're just hanging on for dear life, and I just think that's just all going to come crashing down, and I think most of these refs aren't going to be here in 3 years.
The funny thing is, Nick, they've got 19-1 they voted tonight, correct?
Yeah, but they want VAR to work.
They've got 19-1 with no caveats probably. They will be moaning a load of those clubs next year when VAR goes against them. You go, well, you had your chance.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but how much were they getting wrong before? That's only the live matches we're watching. The stuff that's not live, how do we know that they're not altering? I mean, I've seen games live before where, Sky has given a mile. I remember I think it was a Gareth Bale goal against us, where at during the game he was about 4 yards offside, and by the time Match of the Day done their highlights, somehow they fast forwarded a few frames, and somehow he was level. So they're going to, they've been altering stuff like that for years, in the media, but it's just annoying that we're talking, Arsenal could win the league in a few days' time, and we're moaning about corruption and referees and stuff like that, when we should be talking about, brilliant football going down to the last game of the season. But I think that's what a lot of these people want. They love all the controversy, all the referee this, the referee that, because that's easy for them to talk about. They don't want to actually put any work in and go out and do interviews and talk to people, because nobody wants to talk to them, because they know they're just going to tuck them up. Because I don't think anyone, they're all media trained, so they talk to them, but they're not actually talking to them, if you know what I mean.
Sophie's here from the Highbury squad. Afternoon, Soph. Hope you're well. Go and follow the Highbury squad. You all know about the Highbury squad. Go and give them a little follow on the YouTube. They're very, very good. So people are saying chat GPT and stuff like that. Just had read a bit of an article about the VAR thing and the vote, and they said, but what they do want to bring in is in-stadium VAR officiating rather than being at Stockley Park. And the other one is allowing non-British refs or English refs to come from other countries to come and ref the Premier League. That's two things that they want to...
They must have heard us.
Possibly.
Just one thing that occurred to me right now, and because I had a horrible flashback to the Newcastle game, they need to write down a specific standards of how many cameras need to be with. This is the Premier League. They have the money. Do not tell me you cannot install a flipping camera on the goal line. that Newcastle, it would have all been taken care of, but they go, we don't have evidence because of the angle of the camera. I feel like make it standard. Each goal line, halfway, however you want to do it. What is it called in tennis? Eagle eye?
Yeah.
Hawkeye, something like that. Hawkeye. There's money.
Eagle eye was Action Man.
Thank you. There's money in the league. That is all I'm saying. Don't tell me Leicester City, when they come up and they get their lump sum of money just because they're from the second division, they can't install 4 cameras.
Yeah, but Mike, the problem we have with stuff like that, and this has been their thing for as long as I've been alive, they say, well, if we can't have it on the Sunday league teams, on the Sunday football, that, if we can't have it there, we don't want it in the Premiership because it's not fair. I'm like, do you know what I mean? That's what they always come down to. And they always use that as an excuse. Oh, if we can't have it in non-league football and we can't have it throughout the entire football, we don't want it. But they've already gone back on that now. And now they've got VAR in the Premiership, haven't they? And not in the lower league. So they've already gone back on that. So there's no need why they can't. But I'm saying they could have that line across the whole of the playing area. The same as what they, how long we had goal line technology now for? What, 10 years? So why not have that around the entire pitch?
Also,
it gives them less scope to get their betting wrong.
I mean, I remember that Newcastle game, and that's probably because I think that's probably our biggest sort of VAR thing of the season, because it was 3 or 4. The ball was out. It was a push on Gabriel. It came off his arm, and when it came off his arm, the guy who scored was in an offside position. So pick your bet. But like I say, my girlfriend was watching that with me, and she said, well, that ball's over the line. And she does know nothing about football. She said, but that ball is over the line, so it's out. Yet, for some reason, the referees can't make that decision. Every camera that they show was the ball was out. Yet they say, oh, well, we can't say whether it was in or out. I was like, all the cameras show it's out. It's not a hard decision to make. But it just proves maybe that's what they wanted.
Also, when you get commentators, you listen to a game, and someone goes down in a box, and it all depends what club it is. I really do believe this. And who's commentating, they go, well, he touched him, but he wasn't enough for him to go down, so it's no penalty. The same situation in different shirts. He goes, well, he touched him. It's got to be a penalty.
You gave them a reason.
They make it up, don't they, Melvyn?
Of course they do, Nick. Of course they do.
I saw one. There was one where Havertz dragged his leg on the keeper a couple of weeks ago which in the end that was a nothing thing. So I think we won 3-0
versus Bournemouth. First
goal. It was important. It was an important goal.
Yeah, they actually. I think they called it. They actually used the C word, cheat, on Match of the Day. Yeah, there's one on there with what was it? The Liverpool one, where he was 4 yards from the goalkeeper and shut himself down. And they said, "Oh, that's clever play." I'm like, "Oh, sure, it's the same."
That's what they do exactly.
And double standard. Oh God, that's so irritating. I mean, you get inconsistency with the refs, and you get inconsistency with the commentators and pundits. It's just football.
Look at this. This is the one Nick's on about.
Why do we watch it?
Got that one, yeah.
Yeah, the one he said that was clever play. No contact, 1 step, 2 steps.
Oh my God, that's 500 times worse.
That's what I'm saying. They say that's clever play, yet Havertz drags a leg a bit, and I don't think that was the worst, leg drag and avoiding contact.
No, it wasn't a Rooney, was it?
No, exactly. Yeah, and then he put Sol Campbell. So you've got to respect him for that, because I wouldn't swear it's Sol Campbell at now. But it's just, you look at stuff like that and you just think you can't win, can you?
Want to clear up a few things from the chat that people are chatting away with. Phil Macker says, I love watching the FA Cup games without VAR this season, and to have VAR at some games, VAR at some games and not others, makes a mockery of the cup. Sophie says, don't see how we can go back from VAR now. True, and lots of numbers. It gives the pundits some easy talking points. Sophie says, we had Harriet Pryor from Sky Sports on yesterday, and she said it was so refreshing sideline reporting in championship games this season and not dealing with VAR narrative, which is annoying. Phil says Norwich are 3-0 down. Avon, there's also a vote for automatic offside being installed. I think they're changing the rules on offside again, which is endlessly frustrating. Drago says the fact clubs want foreign officials speaks volumes. They do not trust the current crop. Boy 10, we should have tech nerds that played the game at school kennel operating VAR like rugby and the TMO. People aren't left with much room to debate TMO decisions, even if they don't like them. What else have we got down there? Sai says they will bring that AFCON ref who will blow up at 85th minute. Classic. Syed has made one decent point all night. Camera on goal line outsourced to Indian call centre during a late night shift. Lovely. Sophie says there was an goal line incident in the LA Galaxy game last night. Ref went to the monitor, announced what was happening in the stadium, gave the goal, took 2 seconds. That is the future. And she says MLS is a trailblazing in officiating technology and moving the game forward. If they can do it, Premier League 2, they are jokers. Phil says goal and touchline is scandalous that they couldn't decide if the ball was out at our Newcastle game. Lots of numbers. Need to hear a chat between referees and assistants and VAR. That would clear up most of the issues. Yeah, he wants to hear it live. Yeah.
Can you remember the first game back after COVID? It was on Sky, and someone scored a goal, and they realised that the goal line the watch didn't vibrate because the ref didn't charge it for like the whole 4 months.
Villa was in that, wasn't
the first game back. Yeah, it was the first game back, and then we had to stop for 5 minutes for them to go get new watch batteries because they forgot to charge them.
First game back was Arsenal City.
I thought that was the last game.
That's awesome.
No, the last one was
West Ham.
Arsenal. Wasn't it Arsenal Forest because that's where Arteta got COVID?
No, I meant the first game back, Danny. Afterwards.
So the first one was Man City because that was the first game postponed.
Last game we played, I thought, was home to West Ham.
I don't mean our game. I meant the first game live went not from Arsenal, just in total.
Yeah, it was. It was Arsenal.
I'm sure
because that was when they changed the rules on substitutions and you were allowed 5. I think they decided it partway through the season. I vaguely remember. They're going, what do I know? I know nothing. But Drago says Kane and Vardy probably have 100 dives between them. And that were called as penalties. Des says, Mike, not Sol. That only applies in the court system and in the arbitration process, like under CAS. This investigation is the Premier League. Sol does not apply.
Well, that's
I don't
good
understand
then.
most of that. Oh, we've got V-Rod. Isn't he your boy? Where am I Mexican at? Hold on, we've got a bit of Ram.
It gets really awkward every Cinco de Mayo when French and Mexico history gets brought up. Sebi and I go to war as well.
I have this when Mike's on Guatemala, Mexico, Guatemala, and then when he's on the run, a little bit of Brazilian. Lovely. Right, I think that's it. Have we got any more decent comments down at the bottom? Boy Ted says, when Arteta got COVID, the league got called off. The memes were great. Right, final words. If you can do it in a sentence or less, we'll start with Melvyn because he's a quick thinker. Melvyn, final words before we go.
Don't give up hope.
Excellent. I like that. Mike, any final words other than go to... have I got rid of it? Because I did. It's still saved. I did it 5 minutes ago. There you go. There's your podcast. Not another Arsenal podcast on the YouTubing, so you don't have to say that. So any final words before you go?
I was going to be a jerk and say give up hope just to counter Melvyn, but there is improvement despite finishing second 2 times. Just trust it. We're moving in the right direction.
Lovely. And Mr. Wilson, sir, have you got anything that you want to say to the listeners, the viewers, and people doing neither before we go?
Just like I said, #believe. You never know. What stranger things have happened. You know, we might be getting our Aguero moment. You don't know. Just concentrate on our game. Don't worry about West Ham. If they throw in the towel, I'm going to Stratford in a couple of weeks. I'll sort them out.
You'll have them. And yeah, anything is possible in the world of football. It all depends on how much money you've got and how many Swiss bank accounts you've got. And then anything is possible. Right, I'd like to thank my guests, Melvyn, Mike, and Nick, for joining us today. I'm not sure I can be able to do a preview show because it might be too sad. But if I do, I will let you know, because what day is it today? Thursday. The preview show will be sometime on Saturday. It might well be Mr. Hertz, or it might be Stan. They're the two that I go to for the preview shows. We will be back on Sunday, straight after the game. As far as I know, it'll be me and Deke. And that is it. Thank you very much for watching.
Danny, if we win, everyone will turn up. You know that. Everyone.
It'll be record viewings. It'll be like the days when we used to get 1,500 people watching.
No, I'm saying everyone will want to come on the pod. Everyone will come.
Oh, those fuckers! Yeah, they can go
come
away.
On now, Danny.
I bet they will.
A 26-hour pod like Feinberg, Mike. Danny, if we do win, that is the fucking standard.
Don't soil this podcast with that man's name. He's a heathen. Right, that's it. Thanks to everybody in the chat. You people have been absolutely wonderful as always. Plenty of topics to talk about. You've kept us going. That's it. Thank you very much, and we will see you later. And I'm gonna preempt the Sunday's game by playing this outro. Goodbye.
Come on, Hammers.
Come on.
Out it goes to Lee Dixon. Long ball from Lee Dixon. Smith will hold it up, plays it square to Thomas, and Thomas goes inside Nickel, and Thomas is there, and Thomas has scored for Arsenal in injury time. Michael Thomas has scored for Arsenal. A ball played through the gap. Thomas was there. He held off two challenges, kept his head. By my watch, we are a minute and a half into injury time, and Michael